Previously on FamiComplex.
Santa!
You'll have to do better than that. Enjoy the games.
Oh, hey, cookies.
Another visitor. Stay a while. Stay forever.
Home Alone 2. In 1992, the film Home Alone received its inevitable sequel. In Home Alone 2 Lost in New York, rather than recycling the same plot in a house, they opted to recycle the same plot in New York City. Then, of course, put him in a house that's being renovated with the same bandits for the first film, so they can just repeat the same thing they did the first time around. I guess if you find something that works, you may as well stick with it, right? The whole plot of the movie, however, is a relic of the past. Going on another family trip for Christmas, the McAllister family flies through airport security, where Kevin gets separated from them because he needs to put batteries in his tape recorder. While I remember this film being an obvious product placement for the Talkboy tape recorder, it actually wasn't. In fact, the tape recorder in the film was a non-functional prop designed specifically for this purpose. Tiger's Talkboy didn't release until the following year, apparently brought on by a massive letter-writing campaign by kids who demanded that the product actually exist. Having been separated, he sees a man with similar hair and jacket to his father's, and ends up following him to the wrong plane. Crashing into an employee and sending tickets flying everywhere ensures that he makes it onto the plane to New York and the story is off and running. It's a relic because if this took place today, the whole family would have missed the flight anyway because they'd likely have spent an hour in TSA's security. And assuming they did make it through on time, Kevin would never have made it on the New York plane. He'd likely have been held by the TSA at the airport until his parents could be found. But the biggest assumption that this film makes is that absolutely no lessons were learned the first time around. The wet bandits, now the sticky bandits, still think they can manage to kill the kid, and Kevin still thinks his family is horrible. And realistically, he should probably call Child Protective Services, because they are still horrible to him. As before though, it isn't at all a bad film. It's silly and fun, and I guess it's worth a watch if you've got nothing better to do around Christmas time. But again, we're not here to talk about the movie. So let's all get together and sing Christmas carols and go home and... Fine, we'll talk about the games. THQ's Home Alone 2 game was released in 1992 for the NES, SNES, and Game Boy. All three games are roughly the same, with the primary difference being how awful they are. All three games suffer from control issues, but none so much as the Game Boy version. In this version, almost everything is unrecognizable. And what the hell are these snake things? Also, I'm pretty sure Kevin is missing his shirt again. I'm sensing a theme here. The NES version plays almost as badly, with the same demonic carnival music that seems to be a staple of the series. Some things just take a bit of health, but so many things are instant kills simply because you've gotten too close. This vacuum, for instance. But again, all three games are exactly the same. The story scenes are identical, although the Super Nintendo version uses these hilarious digitized faces that don't fit the image at all. Also, I'm sure everyone remembers the early 90s hip-hop career of Kevin MC Callister. In every version, if you just stand still for more than a few seconds after starting, you'll be strangled to death. You know, for a children's game, this is pretty violent. In the beginning, the game can be pretty confusing. When you have no weapons, your only attack is this slide, which damages suitcases, laundry bags, and some bosses. But other things will just instantly kill you. So for them, you need weapons. But the weapons only work against people. The vacuum, possessed mops, and other inanimate objects don't care that you've just shot them with a boxing glove or a foam dart. They'll just kill you. So there's a huge amount of trial and error involved in order to find out what works against what enemies, what hurts you, and what kills you instantly. With that said, there's a scene where the person behind the registration desk throws keys at you. Now, these don't look like a weapon. In fact, they just look like a key. But in every video game ever, a key is a good thing. It's a programming flag that allows you to open a door later. But this one? No, it kills you. Your first instinct is, of course, to grab the key. Because you've been trained to. Because it's something you'll need later, right? This is literally within the first few minutes of the game. It shatters your expectations and prepares you for the nightmare that you're about to endure. And in the same scene in the SNES version, why does the Phantom of the Opera work at the front desk of this hotel? And what does he have against Kevin? And what is Leonard Nimoy doing working here? Sadly, these questions will never be answered. Then, you get to wait in an elevator. And I swear it happens in real time. There aren't any load times to mask, so why in the hell would you make the player wait for the entire elevator ride? What possible purpose could this serve other than pissing off anyone unfortunate enough to play it? So you're then required to visit every floor on the way up, walk all the way to the end of the hall and back in order to go up to the next floor. You can't skip this. All the while, you'll need to be jumping all over the place in order to pick up the weapons scattered everywhere. This is just like the first game, where things were somehow uncovered by jumping next to them. I say you'll need to because there are certain points where your only option is to use a weapon in order to proceed. Some things are unavoidable, and some enemies can't even be stopped by Kevin's awesome invincible screw attack. Once you make it through that, you'll find a service elevator which you'll ride to the basement. Once again, in real time. Why would you do this to your audience? Seriously. At the bottom of the elevator, you'll find a strange, buggy mini-boss who's supposed to be easy. A few shots down and he's out. But I'm pretty sure there are points in this game where it simply decides that you're done playing and kills you off. Because on a few occasions I found I could get through my entire arsenal and not even scratch him. I still can't figure out any reason why. It's just that sometimes he's unstoppable and sometimes he's easy. I don't get it. You'll find some more horrible employees down here, like this dishwasher who won't stop shattering the plates, and these chefs who continually chop pieces of meat onto the floor. Now, I don't know how much meat cost back in the early 90s, but all I see here is wasted money. This place needs to hire some better help. And an exorcist to handle all those floating mops and suitcases. Now, the first real boss of the game is this head chef. Now, how do I put this so it doesn't sound terrible? Kevin has to, on his knees, slide into him until his clothes come off and he flips over. No, there's no other way to put it. That's exactly what's happening here. Let's move on, shall we? And next, we get some ass-awful platforming. Now that's the Home Alone we know and loathe. After running through Central Park, Kevin meets the pigeon lady from the film. In the film, she was a nice lady who became his only friend in the city. In the game, she starts their friendship by attempting to murder him. After 3 attempts at death by giant pigeon, she concedes and they shake hands. Next, you'll run through Kevin's uncle's house in order to stop the bandits, just like in the film. This area is a maze, wherein you must find a key to unlock a door marked with the same symbol, where you'll find another key, and so on until the game finally lets you go. In each of the doors, you'll set off a specific trap meant to hurt Harry or Marv. The couple of minutes spent in these rooms are the only parts of the game that resemble the movie in any way. Well, except a few, like this one. What's even going on here? Harry and Marv are literally floating. What's below them? Another room. So they're magically rising through the floor. There's no platform or strings, they're just levitating. I mean, you'd think these two sorcerers could stop a kid pretty easily, right? Now, it's possible to get into an unwinnable situation here. Given that you need to get into certain blocked areas to get the next key, if you run out of weapons while running around here, the game is over. The weapons won't come back, and there's no way past the bandits without them. Here, more than halfway through the game, no matter how many lives you have left, you just have to reset and start over. And if you weren't already pissed, you certainly are now. Well, once you finally make it out of the house, you'll climb down from the roof and run through the streets of New York being chased by the bandits. Finally, you'll end at the giant Christmas tree at Rockefeller Center. Now, yes, this is a big-ass tree, but it isn't a tree that's branches could support 2 men and a kid, or one that you could likely get into. I mean, NYPD would have stopped them by now, right? Anyway, once you reach the top, the pigeon lady pops out and throws birdseed down the tree at no one. And here you'll find yourself in a horribly irritating multitasking challenge. Avoid the bandits with Kevin while simultaneously trying to lure them under the birdseed being tossed down at your command by a woman who's constantly moving back and forth too quickly to gauge where she is. I made it through this part by sheer dumb luck. Provided you make it through, you get to see a flock of giant man-eating birds carry Kevin to the safety of his mother below. Then you get to see Harry and Marv imprisoned again, and it's almost exactly the same scene as last time. Ah, what a lovely ending. And a terrible waste of time. How did THQ even survive long enough to become a part of the current gaming generation? Anyway, Sega's Home Alone 2 game released for the Genesis in 1993. Perhaps the additional months in development helped them churn out a better game. Well, by better, I mean less hideously, aggravatingly, face-meltingly awful. We'll just say that if you were locked in a room, had an hour to kill, a Sega Genesis in this game, you'd probably spend 5 minutes with this and 55 minutes trying to figure out where they hid the Sonic games. We start on a short intro featuring Kevin giving us the signature eyebrow waggle that'd make Dr. Wily proud. Instead of starting with the hotel, this version opted to begin in the airport. So Kevin collects Christmas presents that are inexplicably hung in the strangest places, and assaults completely innocent businessmen. That guy was just trying to get home, Kevin. You're a dick. Here Kevin has a slide as well, but it isn't an attack. It just allows him to see up the skirts of unsuspecting women while waiting for their planes. So Kevin, rather than heading to the baggage claim like any sensible person, decides to go back through security for some reason by assaulting an old man and stealing his balloons. He then runs from the police, all the while taunting them and pelting them with baseballs. Let's be honest, Kevin McAllister is the very definition of the word terrorist. Having made it through security, he enters a bizarre alternate universe baggage sorting area like something out of a Bugs Bunny cartoon. There are a large series of interconnected tubes, and falling through the tubes throws you out into another tube. If you've ever wondered why your luggage gets lost so often, this may have something to do with it. The luggage sorting area is apparently a confounding mess of tubes and conveyor belts and sentient suitcases. Once out, he decides to run across town to Duncan's Toy Chest, the toy store from the movie. Now, I get that the other versions of the game had far too much of the hotel, but this game just ignores it entirely. Guys, there was a hotel featured pretty prominently in the movie. Did you miss that? Oh, and you remember the old man from the airport earlier? Not content to ruin his day just once, he assaults him with snowballs for no good reason, and then again to steal his sandwich. Kevin also continues the trend of animal abuse here, throwing snowballs at innocent stray cats. This kid is a freaking menace. And God help you if you should wander into a pack of stampeding businessmen in New York. You may not make it out alive. Of course, Harry and Marv are here too. I find the best way to deal with them is to find a safe place where they can't reach you and throw snowballs at them until they pass out. Then hope that the end of the level will actually let you pass. It took several tries before I could proceed. Finally, Kevin reaches the toy store. While the store in the movie was full of whimsy and wonder, this version is a death trap of marauding toys, tubes large enough to pull a kid to his death, Tinker Toy mazes, and of course, our favorite bandits. Once out of the toy store, he again travels through the city, but this time it's dark and terrifying. Finally, he reaches his uncle's house. Remember the mid-renovation house from the movie? Here's where I discovered far too late that the special button allows you to interact with the traps placed around the house. I say far too late because by then I'd already taken Harry out, and Marv managed to glitch out and get stuck in the background or something. That made this level quite a bit easier to finish. Next, Kevin gets stuck in a series of man-sized pipes filled with frogs and bugs and bubbles and... Well, we've gone so far outside of the realm of plausibility by this point that I don't even care anymore. Next, Central Park. You know, I imagine New York would be a lovely place if not for all the ninjas in Central Park. Anyway, you run through Central Park and avoid the bandits in their most irritating level yet. Again, you reach the giant Christmas tree and climb it. I think this is a good time to mention that Rockefeller Center is about 10 blocks away from Central Park. Just, throwing that out there. Then, of course, there's the Pigeon Lady again, who again incapacitates the bandits. Kevin meets up with his mother. Then, this is my friend the Pigeon Lady. Can we go home now? That's it? No lessons were learned? This is your mother. Is she just a ride home to you? Are you just gonna go home and do it again? And that Pigeon Lady? She has a name, for God's sake! The Genesis version of Home Alone 2 is better, but not by much. At least this one has continues. It also has a weapon construction system with parts for each weapon laying around each level. It isn't great, but it's a nice touch. An explanation of the special button would have helped immensely in figuring out some of the hard-to-reach weapons in earlier levels, but I don't care enough to play through it again. Given a choice between this and the other Home Alone 2 games, I'd play this. Given anything else on the system, though, I'd have to think twice about it. It's better than the others, but it still sucks. And next year, Santa. Next year.